Well, that was very interesting to speak with Tom Scott, who's really put together a very unique program with the Nantucket Project. I urge everybody to go to that website, the Nantucket Project. Now we're going to change gears completely and do something that I think is a long time not addressed, because it's a subject I know nothing about. We have Evan Blau on the phone. He's an attorney with Cassin Cassin, and we are also joined by our producer, Tony Simone, here in the studio. Welcome, Evan.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I'm just going to give a little heads up on you. So prior to joining Cassin Cassin, Evan was in-house counsel for the New York City Housing Authority, and he worked on various affordable housing and economic development initiatives throughout New York City. And I think your specialty in bailiwick is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Am I correct there?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Most people hear those names as I have, and I know very little about it. And I think people are too embarrassed to say, I really don't know anything,
unless
and I don't know what it is. Yeah, unless you've worked in government. Look, when I had friends that used to work at Manny Hanny, this is years ago, and I thought they were talking about, like, some guy who lived in the hood that supplied them with illicit things, and I realized it was manufacturer Hanover. Anyway, tell us a little bit about what you do and your history, Evan.
Sure. So I can kind of give you a high-level kind of overarching sense of how Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac interact within the secondary mortgage market, and kind of explain where they come from, what they're intended to provide within the the multifamily national market, and our interaction here at Cassin Cassin in terms of how we interact and how we act as lenders counsel within that. So, from a backdrop perspective, Fannie Mae was initiated with New Deal legislation in the 30s. Freddie Mac came about in the 1970s. Both are considered government-sponsored enterprises, and they were formed pursuant to congressional charters. The intent of both of these agencies is to provide liquidity and access to mortgage credit by participating in the secondary mortgage market, where loans are securitized or otherwise sold. From an origination standpoint, and that's where we interact at our law firm, and that's where I practice law. Fannie and Freddie provide certain lenders with licenses to originate these loans that are based on promulgated rules and requirements, which, if satisfied, these loans would then become eligible for purchase and sale to Freddie Mac and otherwise.
Who are these lenders? I'm going to keep asking the dumb questions.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are lenders that you've heard of. If you've heard of large lenders that do other things. For example, Prudential is a lender that participates in this and has a Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac license. There are then smaller lenders that specialize just within these niches. Both websites will delineate which lenders have licenses to participate within the origination of these loans on the multifamily market. So in terms of our own practice, we represent the lenders who are originating these loans for sale and securitization with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac on the multifamily side. In terms of our function, we look at these specific rules and requirements, and we know when deals come in whether something is marked for this is going to be a Fannie Mae execution, this is going to be a Freddie Mac execution. So within that context, we as attorneys are well versed in the rules and regulations behind both of those platforms and what it would need to have a successful loan for purchase by those agencies.
Why do we need Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to exist?
So if you just from a bare bones level, if you have you have just a savings and loans, and you go to your saving and loan, and they have you want to take out a loan. At a certain point, there's going to become a point where that savings and loans will not be able to fund additional loans because it has too many loans either on its balance sheet or that it's solely responsible for. So the secondary mortgage market just provides a second avenue where those loans are then, there's certain loss sharing that exists, but I don't want to kind of go into drilling down on those aspects. But the point is that you're providing a secondary market where those loans can then be sold and assigned so that lender can then go and make other loans and that trickles down to, the U.S. economy. It allows other people to come in and either otherwise finance apartments with these lenders and otherwise provides access to credit.
Could you come up with an example or paradigm in the New York area what this apartment may be? Is it going to be something that's new, or is it going to be a building that investors going to purchase?
So typically, and the agencies are in the business of providing. When I say agencies, Fannie and Freddie are in the business of non-new construction, already tenant-occupied buildings. So, and these range. So you have conventional transactions, so market rate transactions where you have occupied buildings with tenants in it, that are fully functioning. They have amenities, and this goes all the way down to one of its core missions within Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is affordable housing. So you could have rent-restricted buildings that are based on Section 8 contracts, that are subject to prior tax-exempt bonds, that are subject to low-income housing tax credits. So you certainly, and then you get a mixed bag in terms of the various asset classes that would go for purchase to these agencies. Now, I was talking a bit about kind of rules, regulations, and within these. So based on asset classes, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will have different, I would say, disclosure requirements or certain aspects that should be followed based on those asset classes and executions.
So I have a question that's probably going to sound ridiculous. I may have missed it. Who are your clients? Are they developers or?
So we represent the lenders who are originating these loans pursuant to these rules, which will be purchased by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The nice part about kind of these lender side executions is you really get to focus your practice on a national level, and that's something that we're proud to kind of develop and boast. We have offices in LA, we have 2 offices in New York, we have an office in Dallas, Texas, and we represent lenders across the country in terms of the origination side of these loans, and participate within every state.
Well, something that I've been curious about, I know that affordable housing is integrated into new developments in New York City, because I don't want to name specific new developments, but I know there are a number of them that part of the deal is there has to be affordable housing within there.
Certainly.
And so does that have anything to do then with Fannie and Freddie and how these developments get financed?
Sure. So in terms of I would say from a starting point, affordable housing is something that is a cornerstone mission of these agencies. So I gravitate, and based on my prior work experience, gravitate towards these types of executions. That being said, it's not a requirement that for a loan to be purchased by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, it contains any affordability restrictions. That being said, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, I think it as part of their core mission statement, look to fund and purchase affordable housing loans and properties. So in terms of my own personal experience and my own client base, my clients are generally, or the relationships I work with are more geared towards the affordable world, which at the moment, and I think rightfully so, is something that is certainly being pushed to the forefront within not only Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, but as you mentioned, New York City is certainly promoting that, and other areas within the country.
Well, this has been really interesting, and you've educated me a bit, because I think I'm honest when I say it's one area I knew zero about, and that was very educational. I don't know if you hear this, Evan, but we have some lovely classical music coming up, which means we're running
Kevin.
towards the end of our show, but I really appreciate you coming on, and you're welcome to visit us or call in anytime you'd like.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for taking the time.
Good talking to you. That was Evan Blau from Cassin Cassin LLP. You've been listening to Stribling's New York. I'm Rob Taub with Tony Simone, signing off.